Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Real Talk once again with me, Yusuf Akoudi, your host just for today. And we're live talking about something that is very important, something that is very topical, and sometimes often, I say sometimes, but often swept under the carpet, which is domestic violence. And there are many forms, many shapes, many sizes, as the practitioners and professionals here with me will advise. We've been covering some ground, and first and foremost, it's about acknowledging domestic violence, and secondly, it's about saying it's not okay. You can't justify it. So you acknowledge it's there, then you don't make excuses for it, you can't justify it, and it's not your fault. And then finally, the services, the reporting, and that's where we were with Sisters Halima and Safiya. Welcome back, Sister Halima and Safiya. I'm sorry to task you with this very topical subjects, culturally, religiously, and we were talking about services. And Safiya, you were going to advise people out there watching what kind of services and what they can do.
That's right. Yes, I think we kind of discussed before the break about speaking to maybe certain professionals, for example, the GP, the health visitor. Because these are people that you tend to have a bit of a relationship with, especially with the health visitor. For a lot of women who have got small children, they have a good relationship. The health visitor can take the action, take it to the right services, take it forward, and get all the appropriate services in place. But there's so many other services out there should you wish not to speak to anyone. If you go online, there's a Women's Aid website that you can go. You've got all the advice. It'll give you whichever area within the UK you're from, it will be able to direct you to the services that are available for you within that area. And it's really important that you do that kind of research. And it will also give you the information that you need to help you identify if domestic abuse is what you're going through. For example, a lot of people, as we said, do not understand if it is domestic abuse. They see it more as a norm. But if you go on the website, you'll be able to get that information. Just type it into Google, Women's Aid, and it will give you the information that you need. But you can, depending on the seriousness. I mean, domestic abuse is serious no matter in what type, shape, form it is. But you don't want to wait till it gets to that point where it becomes too serious or something drastic has happened. One of the things that we mentioned is the impact it could have on children. And I think sometimes we don't realise or understand the kind of impact it has. It could have on the children or any child or any person around the abuse that's been that's occurring. You need to seek the help. You need to speak to somebody. You need to get the advice. If there's anger management issue, there's services out there to get anger management. If it's yourself that you believe you've got a lot of anger within, you can go and speak to your GP who will make a referral for you to get the anger management, or speak to your GP who will get the anger management for your partner, if that's where the concern is, or any other family member there is. But it's important that you do your own research. Go into the Women's Aid website, get the information that you need, see what local services there are, and you can also pick up the phone anonymous, get advice that you want. All these services are available out there, and you can get whatever advice you need without disclosing anything about yourself.
Let's go back a step, Halima. Let's look at the taboo in our community, in our society, in our, I'd say, masjids, madrasas, or maybe even schools and educational systems, and culturally. You as a practitioner and somebody who's helped maybe vulnerable young teenagers and helping people, what flaws or what holes would you like to fill in, and is there any gaps of education, culture that you'd like to chop and change?
I'm really big on emotional intelligence. So last year, for almost a year, I was working with kids, and I was told to actually teach kids, and I said, look, I think having something set up there to allow kids to focus on their emotions is, for me, is the most important thing. And in fact, EQ, emotional intelligence, is more has more of an impact in a person's success compared to IQ, according to research actually. So people associate success with IQ, but actually it's linked to emotional intelligence. So I think teaching kids from a younger age how to experience emotions, and that it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to hit someone.
Okay.
You know, there's a difference there, you know. So it's okay to experience emotions, but it's not okay to to abuse someone else, you know, or to go around graffitiing someone's shop shutters or smashing windows, whatnot. Those things are not okay. So it's about teaching kids to take ownership for their emotions, but then teaching them how to channel these in healthy ways. So for me, that's one thing that I feel is really, really, really important. Yes, and I think giving children, I keep saying children, the reason I say that is because I think if we deal with this when people are younger, we can tackle this. So this learned behaviour isn't exactly set in stone, but I think the longer we leave it, the harder it is to change it later on. And I do think imams and people who have spiritual, religious authority or any kind of authority need to start talking more about sexual abuse, domestic violence, and about these things, you know. There was this video once that we watched that was circulating on Facebook actually, and there was a sister messaged a brother. Now he didn't give her details, but he was shocked, and so he made this video. And what happened was he had a sister contact him saying that she was being abused and raped by her own husband in front of her kids, and that her husband said she then went to an imam, and she said to the imam, look, I need some help. And this imam anyways wasn't very supportive, you know. He said to her, it's your husband, he's got a right to do that to you. Now any religious person who actually follows Ahl Sunnah Quran and, you know, the Sunnah, he will tell you no, that is not okay. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, the only time even the Prophet ﷺ himself, you know, kind of was physical, you know, was in the battlefield. You know, the Prophet ﷺ was always smiling and he was always so gentle. So for people to and once again, this is spiritual abuse, then people in authority justifying things and twisting things, and you know, once again, I could link that to the patriarchal society, etc., but I won't go there. So once again, it's just how a vulnerable woman has come to you, and it must have taken her so much courage to actually, you know, think, okay, enough is enough, I'm going to get some help. She must have been shaking, traumatized, and she spoke to someone that she had hope in, but he let her down. So we need to talk about this. And you know, I read a quote once about how we brush things under the carpet, and the quote said something like, but when it's spring cleaning, there's going to be a lot for you to deal with under the rug that you've been pushing underneath. So things eventually do come up, you know, and they kind of erupt, and it's worse.
I like two things what you've just said right now. I agree with a lot of things. Yeah. IQ and EQ, which is again, a lot of people will be thinking, and again, you know, emotional intelligence, having that, and the kids or children or whoever it is will do better rather than having bigger IQs and no emotion whatsoever. And the other point you've raised is very important in terms of whether it's imams, religious figures, responsibility, and if you're in a position of authority, then you have to play that role.
Absolutely.
I was going to play the devil's advocate here, but I'm not. But there is no excuses. I mean, we would say that, you know, often this bashing of madrasas or alienating or pointing the blame finger that Maulvis, imams, etc. I'm not saying it is like that. However, it's no excuse. They say that, hold on a second, we only have children for hour and a half, 2 hours in an evening. Majority out during the day, they're at school, they're with the parents, they're at home. Why put that burden upon us when you've given us a set task to do, which is teach them Quran or Arabic or something basic as their salat and prayers, etc. Now you want us to do, the counsellor or school will come and they'll say, oh, we want them to learn British values in madrasa. Yeah, you guys are saying they want to teach them about domestic violence and emotional intelligence and etc., etc. So I think there's a lot. I
appreciate that, because, you know, I've taught in maktabs and I understand. I know what it's like to be a teacher and you've got like 30 kids and it's like rush, you're listening to them. But it's about, you know, it doesn't have to be a subject. Like I would sometimes, when I was working in a particular, it was an after school club, what I would do is sometimes like once every fortnight, I would pop into a class and do a half-an-hour workshop on concentration, on how to make friends, on, you know, things like that, gratitude. And it's about providing that service so that kids can go there. So they could have one teacher and they could say to her, you know, alhamdulillah, you know your Arabic, etc., but we also want to take care of kids' emotional well-being. It's not just about teaching them, you know, feeding their minds, you know, it is about feeding them emotionally and spiritually. And can you be the on-site counsellor? You know, and you can work with kids. I used to work with kids, for example, if they lost their grandma. You know, you can come to me. New kids, I'd check up on them. I'd help them settle in. I'd check up on them 2 weeks later. You know, how are you settling in? Are you making friends? How are you finding these subjects? You know, because if kids are feeling anxious, that anxiety is going to play out somehow. You know, either they're going to become really reserved, they're going to get depressed, or they're going to not know what emotion they're experiencing and express it in anger. Because anger is often when people don't know how to manage what's going on, and it just comes out
Sophia,
like that.
I'm going to bring you in, Sophia, as someone who's been on the ground, I say on the front line, in terms of with the homeless and troubled families. Is there something you can add to this discussion with leadership and our culture that we have, and the sweeping under the rug of carpet?
One thing I've, you know, from listening, or, you know, what I've experienced throughout the work that I've done is sometimes we rely so much on other people to deal with our problems. And I think that's sometimes, especially within our community, this is something I've seen as well. This is, you know, I'm talking out of experience. We kind of hope that other people will see certain things, will be able to pick up certain, you know, signs, which is good. It's important for, you know, somebody else to see or give you the help, you know, give the extra kind of push that you need to understand. But until we don't see the problem within ourselves or within our home environment, I think that's where sometimes, you know, it becomes difficult. And I think sometimes with children, you know, I'm not disagreeing with what you've said, but I think sometimes with children we tend to, it could be that we do too much, that they do become totally withdrawn. And I say that on the basis of, not that there should be somewhere they can go speak to, I think that's really important, but what we shouldn't do is bombard them with too many different individuals, professionals or services, especially when there is a trouble. I say that from the background of the troubled families that I've worked with. You know, we had a child of the age of 11, 12, you know, gone through primary school into secondary school, completely became a different person. You know, from the peer pressure he was receiving, so many support services were involved. I got involved to support this child to see if we can bring him back in. You know, there was loads of issues in terms of the attitude, the behaviour, becoming really aggressive, violent. And everybody that got involved, he would lash out. He didn't want to. I can imagine
it was this sense of your authority, and I think that's another reason why, if you are supporting someone, especially people, teenagers, it's sensitive, they're trying to figure out their identity, and then they don't want too many people involved, and I think that's why it's really important to not have this authority complex, I'm here to fix things for you, but rather I'm here, I'm present, come to me. And you know, when I worked with kids, it's never been like, what should we do together? It's more like I've bonded with them. You know, one kid came to me, and for so many sessions we played chess. He taught me how to play chess. I've forgotten already. Another kid, you know, taught me how to play the table football, and it was, you know, and it was only like in the 4th session that the kid opened up, and he was aggressive because his parents had split up. But I never once asked him why he was like that. I thought, I'm going to bond with you. But once, whilst we were playing badminton, he picked up the shuttle thing and he threw it at me, and he said, "Oh, my mum and dad divorced," and he goes, I don't know whose fault it is. That's what it was. It was that simple. He was confused with whose fault it was about the divorce. And so yeah, I think definitely don't bombard them, because then it's like, where am I?
Yes.
Like, everyone's suffocating me, everyone's getting involved. Step back a bit, they need space, but having that presence and being there as an availability.
I think with children,
and they can come when they want.
With what you said, it is about, you know, let them open up, let them slowly kind of, you know, they have to build trust, and that goes for anyone really. To be honest, you know, you meet a stranger, be it whether it's a professional or, you know, we obviously come from a professional background, so when we go in and speak to a lot of these you know, vulnerable people, I think the issue tends, you know, we do bombard them with the wrong kind of questions. You know, so what happened? You know, especially with children, you know, parents, you know, let them.
It can come across very clinical, can't it? And that's why I do prefer the person-centered approach as a therapist, because I think, no offense to anyone practicing as a CBT practitioner, but I think it's so clinical.
Yes.
You know, what's your problem? Let's fix it. And obviously people want to fix their problems, but once again, they can ask for that, or they can try to get there, especially as adults. You know, I think a lot of times adults know what they want. They just need that support. They need that space. And I definitely agree with you in terms of asking questions. And it's.
I think, can I just briefly touch on this? I think as professionals, you know, we deal with that many cases that we just tend to put each case into a certain category rather than see the person as an individual and let them tell you what the issue is, rather than
as practitioners and as maybe a third, fourth generation, maybe possibly community here, Asian community. Do you think culture has now slightly backed off with these things, and we've become more and more open to the rules, regulations, understanding customs, as opposed to cultural practices in Asia? It's not religion. Islam is a perfect religion and way of life. It's culture and diversity and things that come into it. But do you think culture has a big part to play in DV in Asian communities?
Yes.
Definitely. I think culture has a huge part to play, and I think sometimes we do get lost between culture and religion, you know, and tradition. You know, we tend to use our own culture and tradition as a way of saying, well, that's what our religion is about. And I think that's where we go wrong, because that's not what Islam teaches, or that's not what Islam is about. You know, especially, you know, I come from the Pakistani background, and you know, I have grown up with saying you can't do that. You know, in Islam we're not allowed to do this. And I was like, you know, and as you grow, you know, growing up, you're like, okay, you know, we're not allowed to do that. You grow up and you're like, well, that was not.
Where was that from? Yeah, it's a bit like when you're kids and you think you can't say the word pig, and you're like P-I-G, you know, and then later on you're like, okay. So there's so much more to that. That's but that's what tends
to happen. You get lost in the two different things, which are completely different. And for me, I see that the culture tends to teach you, you know, this is a norm, this is a way of life, this is how we do things. And I think domestic abuse, a lot of people tend to see some aspects of it as a norm.
Yes.
There's many categories, and we can carry on and carry on and carry on this particular subject. And we've just touched the tip of the iceberg as such. And I'd love to have you back and maybe continue on a second episode on this, be it domestic violence re-explored, and maybe you can explain a bit more in terms of therapy types, contents, services, and what we've talked about in terms of acknowledgement. So, ladies, we've only got a few minutes left. Safiya, last few wise words from you and Halima, and then we'll have to unfortunately say goodbye to our viewers at home. So,
yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about when it comes to domestic violence, and one of the things I will say is, you know, to recognise what is happening, to understand what is happening, and to acknowledge what is happening are the first steps to make our community better, I suppose. You know, there will be more things we can discuss and talk about, which is important, but until we start coming out the norm and the stereotypes that we've created ourselves, I think it's going to be a struggle to kind of move forward. And that's, I'll leave it to that for now.
Okay, Halima.
What I wanted to say, if you're being abused, is it's not your fault, it's not okay, and you are not weak. And yes, right now you might feel that you're stuck in this situation, but you are stronger than you believe, and you know, take that step, take that one step, and you know, everything will fall into place, and there is support out there.
Thank you very much, Halima and Safiya, for joining the IQRA TV team, crew in Bradford and me on Real Talk. We are going to have this discussion again, and we will continue this topic, hopefully next week, and we can do this in terms of depth and detail. So what we'll do is we'll just touch on two things for viewers at home. One is help and support. It's a quite emotional subject. It's a quite important subject for viewers at home. I must say that if you are suffering, don't suffer in silence. Report it, acknowledge it, talk about it, don't make excuses about it. As Safiya has explained and Halima have explained, there's many agencies out there working in partnership with different organisations, whether it's local authority, police, etc. But there's many charities as well that you can turn to. Domestic violence is serious, it's not acceptable, it's not from your culture or your religion that it's that accepted as part of. So please, please, if you have any questions, queries, problems, talk to somebody, be it your GP, be it somebody you know in your family or your friend. And finally, our guests that are very important to us. Safiya, fitness karate instructor, black belt and lifelong coach in many different things, helping vulnerable individuals. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And also Halima, a psychotherapist, practitioner, public speaker and a teacher as well. SubhanAllah. So many big titles, makes me feel honoured. Thank you very much once again from the IQRA TV team and coming, and we hope you have enjoyed your show. And viewers at home, stay with us until next week. We'll continue this topic. See you soon, inshallah. And assalamu alaikum, sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.